this morning, Jake Fisher in the Mark Stein newsletter put out the Kings have been linked to Drew Holiday, which Jake has already told us he does not think the Drew Holiday fit makes sense because the Celtics clearly have better offers at this point. He threw out a couple of new names, which
I don't know.
Like these are
these are backup options.
These are get yourself through options. They're so Marcus Smart, who is on the Wizards, and I think is a free agent. Marcus Smart is one name at 31 years old, and the other is Malcolm Brogdon at 32 years old. Malcolm Brogdon, I love as a player. He looks just like Oscar from The Office, but also
why you go there?
Well, because if you put them side by side, a picture of them side by side, you're like, oh my gosh, it's the same guy.
Yeah, no.
Like Oscar, like why didn't he go play in the basketball game? You know, in the office, in the warehouse. Why didn't he go play? Because I think he looks like it's actually Malcolm Brogdon. But Malcolm Brogdon can't stay healthy. And, again, this is a guy who's played with Domas in the past, who, basically can at 6'4", he's a good sized guard. He's been a great shooter throughout his career, although he was not a great shooter last year. I just don't think that you can rely on him at all for anything more than maybe like 50 or 60 games.
I just don't think Malcolm Brogdon is the answer to what you want long term. I think when you look at Brogdon, even Marcus Smart, like you said, James, I think these are two guys that if things don't work out for plan A, plan B, and plan C, I think those guys are plan D.
Yeah, so I'd also say if you were going to go get a guy like Malcolm Brogdon, you would do that if you had a top tier pick and can go get a point guard that needs some seasoning and can play with Malcolm Brogdon, play alongside him, back him up, maybe start midway through the season. Like Malcolm Brogdon could be in the same way that Scott Perry in 2017 went out and signed George Hill to a massive deal while drafting De'Aaron Fox number 5. Like I could see a world in which that works. The problem is the Kings don't have a top 10 draft pick. There aren't a ton of point guards. There might be 2 or 3 point guards in the top 10, but I don't think the Kings are going to be able to get to any of those. And if they do get to any of those, they're gutting their team to get there. You're seeing big name players go out for draft picks, and that means that you're sort of resetting. So again, I don't hate Malcolm Brogdon as a player. I actually think Malcolm Brogdon's a much better player than like Tyus Jones. But I also don't think he's a top 15 point guard. I don't think he's a top 20 point guard at this point in his career. And the fact that, the dude has played so sparingly over the last, maybe 5 or 6 years. Like you can go back. He played 24 games last year, 39 the year before, 67 the year before that, 36, 56, 54, 64, 48. The only time he's played more than 64, 67 games was his rookie season when he played 75 for the Bucks and was a rookie of the year. So I have a tough time saying, hey, let's build our team around Malcolm Brogdon. So I'm going to kind of check him off and say, hey, if you get to that point, that means that bad things have happened, right? And then the Marcus Smart thing, like, and again, I'm not going to, if you're looking at Drew Holiday and Marcus Smart's younger, he's not as good offensively, but he's a very good defender. Maybe in some weird world, he would fit next to Zack LaVine in a backcourt because he could at least defend some people. But I also don't think Marcus Smart is still the same defender, and he's also a guy who has not stayed healthy at all in the last couple of years.
He's also I do think he brings an edge to the team, and I think that's something that maybe that they lack in that respect, a toughness factor that sometimes we just don't see. It's a toughness factor, James, that me and you look at and say, Keegan Murray, of like, Keegan, can you just get mad? Can you just get upset for a second, okay?
Yeah.
And just get mad and PO'd and want to go attack someone. Marcus Smart will go do that.
No, he will, and I think the Kings need that type of personality. Like, again, if Marcus Smart was the guy that you brought in to be in your guard rotation,
of course,
I have no problem with that. The problem that I have is that he's not a natural point guard.
No.
And all you have is 4, like, combo/shooting guards. You don't have a point guard at all at this point, and I don't think he's a quote-unquote point guard that would fit into the system.
I think it's also intriguing. These are two guys that are lower on the list. If point guard is your number one priority this offseason and you have to settle for that, I'd be a little alarmed.
No, I get that. I just think that there's also a possibility that the point guard that you need probably it might not come available now, and he might not come available till midseason, and even if that, he might not become available until next offseason. And maybe he won't even be available then, but at least you'll have draft picks to work with, and maybe you can find the guy you need there. Let's get to this. Like we keep hearing the big three in Sacramento, like DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Domantas Sabonis. What do you think? What do you think the chances are of 1, 2, or 3 of those guys being on this roster when the season starts?
I think everybody is available right now.
Everybody is available.
I think everybody on this. I think that there's, if I had to guess, there's probably 2 guys on this roster that are not, I wouldn't call it untouchable, but more than likely going to be on the roster next year.
Okay.
Do you know who those are?
Well, I'm going to guess Keegan Murray and Keon Ellis.
Wow, look at you. A+ for James today. Those are the 2. I think from what I've been hearing, and it's been everything, you know, everybody's available. I think the interesting part, and I think we've talked about this prior to the show, is everyone says that Zach LaVine's contract is untradeable. And I don't think people think about that anymore. And not that that was a thought around the league. I don't think that is consistently a thought right now here with the Kings. I think Zach looks at it and says, you know, he played probably his best year in the NBA this past year, remained healthy. So when you look at LaVine, when you look at Domas, and you look at DeMar, everyone's available. You know another name that I continue to hear? Devin Carter.
Yeah, okay, but not in the same way.
Not in the same way, but a guy that you could probably guess will more than likely, like the percentage points are more than likely he is not on the team next year than anybody.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, again, I've heard a lot about Devin Carter. Devin Carter's name is mentioned in almost every
single conversation,
and he was in a bunch of rumors leading up to the deadline as well. But he was just coming back from injury. Like you kept hearing, well, you know, if the Kings don't want to give up a first round pick, but Devin Carter's a first round pick from this year, maybe he would fit with this team or that team. I definitely I've heard his name multiple times tied to multiple different trade options, and it's almost in the same way that we kept hearing Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter are available, and it's kind of a weird thing. But again, I whether it's personality, whether it's like fit with the club, the one thing I will say is the biggest problem Devin Carter has, like forget about anything that you've heard about Devin Carter. The biggest problem he has is Zach LaVine is a starter. It's a Keon Ellis is your best defensive option. It's that Malik Monk is a dynamic scoring 6-man. They all play the same position. So, look, dude, you're
log jammed.
Yeah, you're just the odd man out.
But he's still, I still think prospect wise, a lot of room to grow. Still a great prospect. And I still think that he has a potential to be good in this league.
Yeah, I think so too. And then, and to add to the Zach LaVine thing before we get out of here for another break, the guy shot 51.1% from the field and 44.6% from 3.
Sheesh.
He in 74 games was absolutely one of the most efficient perimeter scorers in the league. And so it does not surprise me to hear that there's potential for him not only to be moved, but that there are teams intrigued and not just saying, hey, we're not taking that contract.
I also think it's because he remained healthy this season. I think that the money, if he remains healthy, the money doesn't look as egregious as it used to be.
Yep. All right, we're going to step aside.